Sanjay Rath says in his article, there is nothing more fearful than the 8th house, which is called Chandra Bhava in the Jyotish. But what is the difference between the 6th house and 8th house? Because we know that both are negative houses. So the 6th house will show that the person is driving under influence. The 8th house will show that there is some flow in the car. So based on that, the 6th house may show some weakness, which will continue our wrongdoings, while the 8th house is already done and we are getting the consequences. So from that perspective, the 6th house can be worse. In my recent survey, I asked you what you would like to see next in my videos. So the first was yoga, the second was house. So today we will be talking about the 8th house. Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you are all doing well. Today we'll be discuss the few points surrounding the topic of the 8th house, which is one of the 3 negative houses called Dusthana. The remaining 2 are 6th and 12th. So how is the 8th house opening for you? Where is the 8th lord and what are the good and bad sides of the 8th house? All this we'll discuss in this video. And for those who are new here, my name is rgendarz, and this channel is all about Vedic Astrology in the traditional with the analytical research example-based approach. So if you like the video, please click the thumbs up, share, comment, subscribe, as I'm posting the videos every week. So now let's dive right into this 8th house matters. So let's get out some basics out of the way. So the 8th house belongs to 2 groups of the houses. One is called Dusthana and one is the Chaturashra. The Dusthana is all about the bad places. Dushta is negative and Sthana is about the place. We also have to remember that 8th sign is Scorpio, which is the debilitation sign for the moon. So the 8th house therefore will show the end of something. There is the death, there is this debt which is giving the stress, there is the disease. So the moon doesn't have a fun time in the 8th house. We also have to say that the moon is the planet of balance, so it's exalted in the 2nd house, which shows the family, while the 8th house is a bit extreme because it's natural 8th house of Scorpio, and Scorpio is loaded by Ketu. So this Rahu and Ketu, these nodes of the moon, they are showing the periphery of society. It may show the very extreme lifestyle, very extreme views, extreme ways of seeing the world. So therefore moon also doesn't resonate very nice with this 8th house energy. 8th house also has this alter ego side to this because both Aries and Scorpio, which are the 1st and 8th signs in the natural zodiac, they are loaded by Mars. So we say that the Lagna is awakening us to a day and the 8th house is awakening us to the night. So we can say that we are failing there because we are in darkness and we are alone there. Also, when the moon is in 8th or 12th, person may ignore the health, and this can be to such an extent that this can decrease the longevity of the person. If 9th lord is in the 8th house, the person may have problems with protection, and this may also show giving up the fortune if it's benefic or losing the fortune if it's malefic. And the remedy for such yoga is the Shiva mantra with the 8 aksharas, which would be the Om Mahadevaya Namah. 8th house is also the house of sustenance of marriage because the 7th shows the relationships and the 2nd always is sustaining the previous house, just like our food is sustaining us. So if the 8th house is weak, this may lead to divorce, and also we can see the land of the marriage based on the 8th house planets. 8th house is also called by Parashara the Durga, which means the challenge, which means the fort. So it is like you are surrounded by all these challenges and it is very hard to overcome. You may try, things are not improving. So this experience is also coming from the 8th house. The 8th house associated with Rahu shows the sudden change of fortune, and the planet which is joining that Rahu will show what will be what will change, where will the change happen. And if this planet is exalted, then we say that this change is very positive. 8th house, according to Parashara, is also called Mrita Dana, which is Mrita, which is the death, and Dana is the wealth. So it's the wealth of the death. So this also includes the inheritance. So in the 12, the chart of parents, we can also see the 8th house from this perspective. Many planets in 8th house or important yogas related to 8th house often shows that people are wealthy because they are supported by the previous generations. This is the 12th from the 9th house, which is showing the remnants of fortune. So if it's good, it's in the form of inheritance. If it's bad, then it comes in the form of Dija dosha. So when we analyze the curses in the chart or real affliction, then always we need to pay attention to the Lagna Lord, 8th Lord, and the Atmakaraka. And the 8th Lord, this is the part of something coming from the past. Some important remnants is there. We are not left clear in this birth. There is some kind of debt from the past life. So for example, Mukesh Ambani, one of the wealthiest people on this earth, has Saturn 8th house with the Jupiter 3rd lord, so he got the inheritance. Also there was some strifes with the brother, which is Jupiter and the 3rd lord. 8th house is also a planet of esoterics and Jyotish. Parashara calls it Gatyanukadikam, which is the knowledge of the past and future, and this is activated when the 8th house is somehow connected to the Jupiter. The Upachaya from the 8th house will also show how our spirituality is growing. So for example, 10 from the 8th house is the mantra, which is the CD. How you can get the perfection in spirituality is through the the mantra. Also, we see that the Lagna, which is the idealism of the person, is the 6th from the 8th. And also we will notice that the 11th house will be the 6th house. So the wrong mantra can really affect our spirituality. We also calculate the Vimshamsa chart based on the 8th house. So because it's a 12 plus 8, it's 20. It's D20 chart, is the Vimshamsa chart, and therefore Parashara says it's the chart of Upasana, which is the spiritual practice we are doing, and therefore also is the chart of Sannyasa. Therefore the 8th house is also showing those events in our life. Of course, the 8th lord will also bring the disease. This is probably the first indication that people are bringing when thinking about the 8th lord, and in this regard we are seeing the sign of the 8th lord. So for example, if the 8th lord is in Aries, it can be related to head. If it's Taurus, it's more face. Gemini will be here the throat. The Cancer will be here the lungs, the breast, the heart. Also the 5th house will be about the region of stomach and so on. So we are going from Aries and we are ending with the feet, with the Pisces. And we remember that 8th house related to Rahu was bringing that changes, but when 8th lord is with Rahu, this can bring diseases which are changing the body into the stone, and for this the 8th lord must be weak or with the weak planet like the debilitated planet. And generally the timing of disease is based on the 8th and 12th in the Navamsha chart. There is the whole chapter of the 8th from the Aruda Lagna, which is showing how the depths of the past life are manifesting in this life, and this also shows from which things we are escaping from, but we will leave that for another occasion. So Mauna Vratam, Rudra Mantra, Lighting the Lamp, and Ganesha Mantra based on the 8th lord position are all the best remedies or upayas for the 8th house. In the electional astrology or Muhurta, we are looking for the planets in the 8th house. If there are any, this may show premature and due to unforeseen circumstances, so we try to avoid the planets in the 8th house. So now we have some questions related to 8th lord or 8th house from the Instagram. So the first one was Aquarius Lagna when 8th lord is in 12. This is kind of good yoga because the Dusthana lord is also in the Dusthana. There are 3 such yoga mentioned by the Parashara. This one is bringing the blessings of Krishna. I have also such yoga. The 12th lord moon is in my 8th house, and based on that the 2 negatives, this should bring some positive things regarding the 8th, which is a debt, or 12th house losses. For example, it can make one without a debt, similar to Mercury in the 8th house. And here from the perspective of Viparit Raja Yoga, this is even stronger because you have mentioned that this Mercury 8th lord is also with the moon. The moon will be the 6th lord, so it's the perfect yoga in the 12th house. And for such yogas, the Lagnesha should be strong to deal with such situations. So if the Viparit Raja Yoga is there, then we are taking the other person placement, so it's not very positive for the other person. So in the tradition we are not considering this very positive. Generally the 8th lord without the Viparit Raja Yoga can show the period when we are replaced by someone else. And from the perspective of Capricorn being occupied by the 8th lord, it shows the legs or the knees. But here the 6th lord Yuti may change this Adhisthana or place of disease to the house, and the 12th house will show then feet or nose. The next question is about the likelihood for affairs. So yes, especially if Venus is related to the 8th house or it's related to the 2nd from Upada, 8 in Navamsha and so on, then it is the 1 vote for possibility of the 3rd person in the relationship. Now the next is 8th lord moon Vargotam. So this is always good, always positive according to the Prashna Marga. So the Vargotam make things positive more positive, the negative less negative. And the question was about the placement in 11 from Aruda Lagna. This shows gains. So all the meanings of the 8th house, like the inheritance and so on, also can be then the part of one's gains. Then it's about the Libra and moon in 8th. So the real Marana for Libra is in the 3rd house because moon gets exalted in the 8th. So this is the principle of Bhavat Bhavam when we take the 8th from the 8th. And the 10th lord in 8th house can give the situation where the finances are not playing the big role in one's career life. So next is about the moon and Rahu in the 8th house in Gemini. So there is some battle. The moon and Rahu and Mercury Mars is showing the battle yoga. And here, however, Rahu will be strong and exalted. So if it's also strong in the Navamsha, then it's usually shows the situation when it's hard to get out of the marriage, even if one wants. So this is normally stabilizing. The strong planets in the 8th house are stabilizing the relationship. The next question is about the Ketu in the 8th. So we say that Venus and Mercury doesn't like Ketu. Ketu doesn't like Rajas. So if Venus and Mercury are opening from that side of Venus and Mercury, then the 8th house of Ketu may be a little bit problematic. However, of course, the Ketu in 8th will promote its own indication, especially when being with the Sattvic planets like Jupiter will promote spirituality, Jyotish and so on. But If negative, can give very shocking situation related to finances, especially when connected to Mercury, because it can destroy the structure, destroy the wealth. So the fire and Mercury, they don't like each other. The next question we have Leo Lagna, Venus in 8, 10th Lord and 3rd Lord Atmakaraka. So first, Atmakaraka in the 8th, person could be like a monk, doing the same thing every day. There could be some strong attraction or lessons coming from the meaning of the 8th house. This could be health, this could be renunciation, this could be things related to inheritance. The soul is somehow very much emotionally connected to these areas of life. 3rd Lord in 8, according to Parashara, shows that one can take the wealth of others. This is of course not so here. Venus is exalted, so the ideals will surely block this. And the second thing is that Parashara is mentioning that the one can assist others in whatever they are doing. So this can give a very nice assistant. And 10th Lord in 8 we already discussed. Of course, the planets will play a bigger role depending on the rest of the chart, so we have to see the rest of the chart. The next question is about Saturn and Mars in 8th house. So this is the Yama Yoga. So on the positive side, this can increase that Mrita Dhanam, the wealth of the death, and is especially related to lands, because both Saturn and Mars loves the land. Saturn 8 also will give the long life, Dirgayu. Mars can pull it down a little bit because Mars is the sign when Saturn is debilitated. So we have to see the rest of the chart to give more definite prediction. And the 7th house will be somehow promoted. So this can give that deals related to the properties. From spiritual perspective, the Smashanam Vairagya, which is the renunciation when being exposed to death, or a similar situation, this is increasing the spiritualities. So this can push one more into that spiritual insights and will be very much related to topics of death. So very deep spirituality, reincarnation could be very important for native and so on. The next question is about Saturn Moon in 8th house for Karka Lagna. So this is giving the austere spiritual person, the pranayama can be very important for such people. They may be loners by choice because this is the Lagna Lord, may keep low profile. And this is important for them to not resign too quickly or prematurely from the projects of their choice, because this is the nature of the Raja Bhanga, that one is resigning from success, especially if it's include the Lagna Lord in the 8th house. Rahu in 8 in Capricorn, we did a little bit about the Rahu in 8. So see the planets joined, maybe if it's empty then we should see the dispositor. If 8th house is empty, what to do? Says always see the Lord. Probably I should do a short video or the YouTube shorts on this, as this is the most frequently asked question. 8th Lord with the 10th Lord, we already did this. This is also showing the person not motivated by the finances. This can also bring some losses or some issues. The resources or assets of the 10th house can be taxed. The 8th house has this taxing nature. It must not be the main work, it could be some side project, even the projects of people we are involved with. So there be some taxation if it's negative. Okay guys, so that's gonna be all from me. I hope this was valuable content for you. Write below if you have any plans in the 8th house. I'm very curious and I love reading your comments. So write down what plans you have in 8th house and how it is influencing you. If you want me to help you interpret your chart, then we can schedule the 90 minutes of personalized reading for you. Then just please hit me up with the email below. Please share, like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.